So, is AI coming for your job? It feels like that question is absolutely everywhere right now. And you know what? It can be pretty stressful to think about. But what's really happening behind those scary headlines? Well, that's what we're going to get into. We're going to cut through the noise and look at what the actual data says about the future of work. Okay, let's do this.
I mean, you've seen the stories. You've probably had friends sending you articles about it. There's this huge narrative building that we are on the brink of this massive AI-driven job crisis. And it's a really compelling and, frankly, a pretty terrifying story.
And look, it's not just some abstract fear floating around. This is Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Block. You might remember them as Square. He came out with a statement that really sent a jolt through the business world. He basically said a fundamental shift was already happening, all thanks to what he called new intelligence tool.
And yeah, he wasn't just talking. He backed it up with some pretty drastic action. Block announced it was cutting its workforce by a staggering 40%. And Dorsey didn't beat around the bush. He directly tied this huge layoff to AI-driven efficiencies. When a major tech company does something like that, it makes the threat feel very, very real.
But this isn't just about one company. You've got these major global organizations making these huge, sweeping forecasts. The World Economic Forum, for example, puts out this Future of Jobs report. And their latest one, well, it's what's really fueling a lot of this anxiety we're all feeling.
And here it is, the big, scary headline number, 92 million. That's how many jobs the WEF thinks will be displaced across the globe by 2030 because of tech and AI. A number that massive is pretty hard to wrap your head around, and it just perfectly captures that feeling of an impending jobs apocalypse.
Okay, so the case for panic seems pretty strong, right? But now we're going to do what we do here, and we're going to pivot and look past that initial shock. What does the evidence actually show when you start to dig in a little bit?
And that really brings us to the most important question of all. Is this story of just pure job destruction, is that really the complete picture? Or is there something big that those headlines are leaving out?
Now check this out. What's so wild about this is that it comes from the exact same report as that scary 92 million number. But this shows you the full forecast. The World Economic Forum also projects that 170 million new jobs will be created in that same time frame. So you do the math. That's a net growth of almost 80 million jobs. Displacement is real for sure, but it's happening at the same time as creation.
And, other big financial players are seeing the same thing. A recent report from Citadel Securities actually pushed back on this whole crisis narrative. They basically said that when they looked at the real labor market data on the ground, they just didn't see evidence of some massive imminent collapse.
Right, so the hard data tells a much more complicated story. Let's look at a few facts that might actually surprise you. First off, in 2025, layoffs that were specifically blamed on AI, they made up less than 5% of all job cuts in the US. Second, remember the fear that AI would replace coders? Well, software engineering jobs have actually rebounded. And third, while a ton of people have played around with generative AI, the number of people who use it every single day for their actual job has stayed surprisingly low and flat. The big takeover just isn't showing up in the numbers yet.
Okay, so if it's not a simple story of jobs just vanishing, then what in the world is going on? Well, the Dallas Fed has this idea that the real story is way more subtle. It's all about the different kinds of knowledge we use at work and how AI interacts with each of them.
They break it down into two types, and it's a great way to think about it. On one side, you have codified knowledge. Think of this as book smarts. It's stuff that can be written down in a manual, taught in a classroom, and because of that, it can be pretty easily automated by an AI. But then you have tacit knowledge. This is your street smarts. It's that intuition, that gut feeling, that judgment you only get from years and years of hands-on experience.
And this is where it all clicks into place. AI is becoming a substitute for those routine, book smarts tasks. But for experienced workers, it's becoming a complement. It's a tool that takes care of the boring stuff, freeing them up to focus on the high-value work that requires that hard-won street-smart knowledge.
And you can actually see this playing out in the wage data. And honestly, this might be the most surprising fact of all. Since late 2022, wages in the computer systems design field, one of the areas most exposed to AI, have grown more than twice as fast as the national average. So far from being devalued, that deep tacit knowledge of experienced tech workers seems to be in higher demand than ever before.
So the key takeaway here is that AI isn't some universal threat to everyone. It's creating a more specific, structural challenge. The biggest squeeze is really on new graduates and entry-level workers, the very people whose jobs are usually filled with those codified tasks that are now being automated. That classic career ladder where you learn by doing the basics, well, that's being disrupted.
So if experienced workers are actually becoming more valuable, how are companies behaving? Are they all following Block's lead and just downsizing? Or are they taking a totally different path? Let's see what the survey data says.
This survey of employers from the World Economic Forum is, wow, it's really telling. Just look at their top priorities. 77% of companies say their focus is on training their current employees to use AI. Downsizing because of AI? That's way down the list, a priority for only 41%. The overwhelming focus here is on augmentation, not just replacement.
And that's not just a one-off finding either. Another survey, this one from Bloomberg Intelligence, talked to hundreds of senior executives, and they found that a majority actually expect AI to help them expand their workforce over the next 3 years. They see it as a tool for growth and productivity, not just a way to cut costs.
Okay, so we've seen the hype, we've looked at the data, we've uncovered some of the nuance here. So what does this all mean for you, for your career? How can you actually position yourself to thrive in this new world?
So here are 4 key takeaways from everything we've looked at. First, make it your mission to build that tacit knowledge. Get the hands-on experience and judgment that sets you apart. Second, become an augmenter. Don't be afraid of AI. Learn how to use it as a powerful tool that makes you even better at your job. Third, double down on the skills that are uniquely human: creative problem solving, real collaboration, strategic thinking. And finally, be a critical consumer of the hype. Always, always ask to see the data behind the scary headlines.
Ultimately, all the evidence suggests that we should really reframe this whole conversation. Change is coming, there's no doubt about that. But viewing it as this passive threat, as something that's just going to happen to us, kind of misses the point. The real challenge is an active one. How are we going to adapt? How are we going to learn? And how are we going to evolve to work with these incredible new tools?